Hey there, digital dreamers, and welcome to Digital Fantasies. If you're new here, which I am to presume you are, then my name is Fanta, short for Fantasies like the second half of the channel's name, and a few days ago was my birthday. So, happy birthday to me, and happy birthday to anyone else who also shares the same day. It was the 27th. Now, you're probably wondering who I am beyond the name. Well, recently I've been wondering that too. I know that birthdays are usually times that call for joy and wonder, but they can also be a great time for reflecting as well. And reflecting is exactly what I set out to do these past couple of days. And after some time, I think I've come to a conclusion about something really important in my life. So, if you indulge me, I like to discuss how I've been feeling. You see, for my whole life, I've always fantasized about being able to make video games. And long story short, roughly 4 years ago, I began my journey to bring those fantasies to life. And I subsequently failed. And the reason behind why I failed is alarmingly simple. And yet, this seemingly simple problem had caused me absolute hell these past 4 years. See, it was just about 4 years ago when I made my first game called Core. That's Core. I made it on my mom's laptop, which was given to me during a certain pandemic. And while actively running the project in its game engine, the laptop suddenly crashed, which resulted in the project getting corrupt, which was reasonable. It was a pretty old laptop, and me, being an optimist, didn't feel too bad about it. After all, it was just my first game, and with the experience I gained from making it, I could just remake everything in half the time with half the code. I'll just have to be careful not to make the game too big this time. So I made it again. But once I had everything back to how it was with much more compact code, I figured, hey, I can write small code now, so maybe I could add some more stuff to the game than I had before. So I pushed my luck even though I said I wouldn't, and it got corrupt again. So I just made it again, and then again, and again, up until I had remade the project 9 different times. And in between all of those corrupt projects were other games, like my second game, Alarming Farming, inspired by Stardew Valley, but with like a heavier push towards combat. Or my third game, Survival of the Fittest, a mashed together pairing of the bullet hell genre and the survival genre. And I think at some point between like Car 4 or 5 was a game jam game inspired by lovers in a dangerous space-time called Frontiers. And all of those games also got corrupt. Eventually, though, I got a new laptop, and with it, I made 11 more copies of my first game. So that's 19 copies in total, like the number on the cake. And in between those copies of Car, the 11, I made a total of about 30 other games. That's a fat 30, unlike the number on the cake. Except all roughly 44 of those new games on the new laptop weren't corrupt like the old laptop. Instead, I just deleted them myself. I wasn't happy with them, and frankly, I wasn't happy with myself at the time. The first laptop I had was old and it couldn't handle my games. Anytime I made one, they would just get corrupt, but I kept making them under the belief that I was gaining experience and could make my next project a lot faster and make it more compact. That way they wouldn't get corrupt. But I just kept pushing my luck and kept overscoping the projects thinking I can get more done now that it's compact. But then I would just make the game too big and they just get corrupt again. So when I eventually got that new high-spec laptop and could make games without a handicap, I just started feeling depressed. You would think it would be the opposite and I'd be ecstatic, and I was at first. But for such a long time in my career, there was this invisible wall that I believed was the sole thing stopping me from achieving what I knew I was capable of. But when that wall was gone, and with the ability to make an infinitely big game, I just felt like my projects weren't good enough. Before, I could just blame it on the corruption of the software. It took at least a whole year with the new laptop for me to even suspect I may have been the corrupt one. You see, all that buggy laptop did was make my perfectionist attitude just grow and grow. And frankly, allowing a perfectionist attitude to fester in an industry like this never ends off very well. And I learned that the hard way. I felt pretty worthless for a while, and I slowly started to hate game development. But it was my dream, and even though by the time I made Car 12 I just wanted to give up, I didn't. Because I didn't want to drop my passion, because I wanted to see it through. And I was scared that if I dropped it, I may never pick it up again. A sentiment that only got worse as years began to pass by, and I started getting older and started getting a lot more responsibilities. I remember thinking to myself, what if I grew up to be just like every other adult that I see in TV shows and movies? The kind who had a passion but gave it all up because being an adult means dropping any and all childish fantasies. What if this was nothing more than a childish fantasy? Well, it kind of has been. I've tried for the past 4.5 years to make games and to make videos here on YouTube, and it was a childish fantasy to think that if I just kept making games and videos the same way I always was, that maybe one day I'll just magically fix my problem. When I always had the real, simple, mature, and downright obvious solution of just taking a step back and just breathing. And that's what I did. Even though I didn't want to. I stopped making games for a little bit. Stopped letting this hog up my mind, and then, after a while, I came back. And instead of immediately making a random game, or going straight back into working on my channel, or my itch.io profile, or remaking Car again, or some other random spur of the moment thing, I sat down, looked at a calendar, and said, hey, my friend's birthday is coming up. I should make a game for them. And so I started making a game. And instead of the project lasting a few days like my other ones, it lasted a whole 2 months. And I didn't finish it. I was working on it past their birthday, and I kept extending the deadline, and each time I did, I felt worse about the project. So I stopped working on it. But I didn't delete it like the others. It's still sitting in a folder, even though it's way past my friend's birthday, and even though the friend I wanted to give it to doesn't mind not having it. I still kept it, and I still want to work on it. And so I sat down, and instead of overworking myself and jumping back into the game, or jumping into Car 20, or something like I usually do when dropping a project, I stepped back and asked, why? Why is this project different? And I thought at first maybe it's the passion. The passion for that game, the fantasy that is making it. It extended beyond the simple act of its creation and attached itself to genuine emotion. It extended to the friend I was making it for, that feeling of excitement and pride to show off to them what I made as a gift. And it extended to the friends who helped me with making it, watching everyone come together to make something, even if by little amounts of contribution was something I couldn't help but feel pride in. And it extended to those same friends who I talked to as I went through its development, feeling pride and talking to them and updating them on the project. And I was so prideful about this game, I made an entire dungeon generation system and then had to scrap it, and I still felt happy about working on the project. I mean, I have dropped projects just because I couldn't get an enemy to move left, and yet I could scrap dungeon generation like it was nothing and then push through. So it's pride, right? I love my friends and the game is for them, thus I love the game. Friendship is magic cures depression. My Little Pony was right all along. Well, by all means, if you're depressed or having feelings of depression, then you should reach out to your friends and loved ones. But after really sitting back, no, that game wasn't different simply because I took pride in it or because friendship is magic. Because honestly, for as much as I have hated these past 4 years of game making, I can't not feel pride in all of my old projects. And yet my pride slowly went away while making them. and not with my friend's game. But looking back at them now, I still feel pride, and I immensely love them. Each and every last one of them. I mean, each of them meant something to me. And I know you don't really know what those projects are, but let me just read a list describing some of them so you get a good idea of like what I'm about to get into. One of the projects was a content slot machine for my channel, which should have been a fun way to bring about unique mashings of my favorite games, but it was pushed aside because I wanted Car, my first game, done as my first video, before showcasing some big YouTube series. I made a strategy game version of Minesweeper, upping the challenge and tactics. But I thought it would be rare to release that before getting done with Car. So, I made a free roaming Plants vs. Zombies game. I postponed it because I didn't want to release it before Car. There's a game about a lava monster climbing a volcano. Pushed to the side because of Car. And that one, I really like that one. You're made of lava, dodging falling water drops, just like a really cool concept altogether. It blends. And there's so much more, getting more complex in their stories and ideas as I got older. There was a game where you play as mutated blood clots in a rod of flesh, fighting against the system as you destabilize a corrupt crown and salvage a lost civilization. The gameplay was just Hollow Knight, honestly, but themed around eternal organs instead of insects. That shit is badass, but it had to wait because I hadn't finished Car yet. There was also a game all about the weight that a legacy can leave on an orphan child who's forced to slave away on an unending destiny. This one was awesome. Cool drilling mechanics, cool boss fights, it's all around cool. It was a roguelite, but with a crafting system tied into the gunplay. But you know what it was missing? The shitty platforming of Car, so it had to be scrapped. There was an RPG game with a classic story all about a bunch of kids leaving behind their childhood, growing up. It was a little generic, but goddamn, sometimes classic ideas are classic for a reason. But it couldn't be as classic as a simple platformer named Car, so it had to be put down. And there was also a game, and this one I love. It's about returning to your hometown to face your family of cultists that enslaved you in your youth. If that sounds generic and it sounds like something you know, basically think Silent Hill meets Resident Evil. How could I drop a project like that? Oh yeah, because I hadn't finished Car yet or made a video about it. There's also, honestly, a pretty dark game I was making at one point. There's also a pretty dark game I was making at one point about a young man growing up in a religious and overbearing household and the tragedy of them succumbing to the pain of losing their unborn child and the love of their life to a religious hate crime. It was my own spin on the Amari style, emotionally driven adventure game. Of course, that game was nothing compared to the shitty platformer I made as a child, and thus it had to be wiped off the face of the earth. And that's just some of the stories and games I made. I mean, I had made so many VODs, and began bringing to life so many digital fantasies, so many characters and stories, and all of them I took pride in. So why were those games abandoned and deleted, but not the one I made for my friend's birthday? And that's when the pattern that I'm sure you easily saw because it's so damn obvious became so damn obvious, I feel straight up stupid for not connecting the dots, but I deleted those games because of Car, my first game. It kept coming along with a damn Infinity Gauntlet and snapping them to dust. The problem is obvious, and it's intertwined itself here on YouTube. My games were scrapped because I didn't want to finish them before finishing Car. It's just that straightforward. And that problem was suffocating my dream. I mean, I'm a devlog channel. I want to make videos of me making my games. And because I was treating my path as a game dev like there's some perfect and rigid path I have to follow, it made me never upload in 4.5 years. It's a perfect trifecta storm. I couldn't finish Car because it was too simple of a game, and this festered perfectionist attitude wouldn't let me upload it or, make a video on it. But I couldn't make any new games because my perfect attitude wanted me to finish the first one first. And on top of that, anytime I got upset, it would think of stepping back from that dangerous cycle. I feared that doing so would be admitting defeat and would result in me giving up on my dreams forever, like most adults always seem to do, which worsened the closer I got to 18, and the more responsibilities I got outside of playtime at the computer. And clearly I was aware to some degree that I was never going to walk out, because 3 years ago, in basically a fit of depression, I released a video on Christmas titled The Shittiest Christmas Special on YouTube, which I uploaded just to show myself that I could upload something if I just uploaded it. And who would have guessed, but that video became a tradition, which has been upheld just about every year. And it's tied to promises and deep, genuine emotions about how I'm feeling. And it's good, It didn't care about the larger plans beyond a few small ideas of what to do for the next year's special. And honestly, yeah, fucking good idea. I'm tired of this storm in my head twisting my thoughts like a whirlwind and making me think everything has to go perfectly. It's tired of just things being the way they don't have to be. And I think by making that game for my friend, I finally got myself out of that loop. Or, been able to take a step back because that game doesn't exist in that loop. It was never going on the channel because I didn't want to profit off of a gift made for a friend. And now that I did step back, I think I'm starting to put all these problems to rest now. Being an adult isn't giving up on your dreams. It's understanding that the perfect dream reality in your head, the one where everything is done the way you want it to and in the order you'd like, is never going to be coming true. You're not in Infinity Stone. You don't control reality. So things won't always go how you want it to. But if you slow down and take life calmly, maybe you can make something out of what you got. Out of the things that are true to you and how you feel in the moment. Like making a game for a friend instead of making a game simply because you feel you need to prove a point to an invisible audience. Or making the Christmas specials, Making something in the moment. You just gotta use what you got. So, with that in mind, here's what I got. I got about 30-something great game ideas. I got the passion to make those games, and I got the tools to make those games. And I also got the proof that the Christmas video format works. Making small promises and just being genuine is kind of, it's cringeworthy, but it drives me. And, last and most importantly, I now have got no clue what the future entails. Which is a good thing, It should be that way, I feel. So, with all of that being said, take my word and hold it. Because I promise that for this entire year, and hold on to your hats, guys, because this is the promise part, for all of 2024, that for every month, by the 27th day of each month, I'll have at minimum, one new video published. Holiday video or not, one video published. It's currently January 27th, 2024 at the time of recording, and it'll probably be released a few days from now, so that's at least maybe 11 videos by New Year's Day, 12 if you count this one. There's only the one Christmas video uploaded last year, and another one the year before, and one more before that, so I'll essentially be multiplying my yearly output by 12 at minimum, and I think that's good, I can make my way through my whole catalog, I can remake a lot of it in whatever order I please now. I'm going to bring to life those digital fantasies, and I'm starting it this year. I'm through with wasting my time dogpiling more broken dreams into a heap. And, if ideas come along outside of my games and, I want to make a game about them, then I'll do it. I'll do what I please as I go, because it should be fun. It's about showing off my games with pride. So, this is it. This is the year where I make a stand. And, I hold firm on everything. So, with that said, happy birthday, Fanta, and, everyone else. And screw car, let's make this a good year.